The Rainmaker is all elite. Kazuchika Okada made his official AEW debut on Dynamite Wednesday night. He came out to seemingly save Eddie Kingston from a beatdown by the Young Bucks, but instead he dropped him with a Rainmaker and became the newest member of the Elite, taking the place of Kenny Omega, who the Bucks fired from the Elite for failing to make his dates, even though the man was near death from diverticulitis. We now have corporate heel Okada. Tokyo Sports, which often reports things in kayfabe, claimed that Okada's contract is for 3 years at an estimated $13.5 million, which would work out to $4.5 million per year. You know, Barry Bloom was representing him. He also represented the Young Bucks in their negotiations. Barry Bloom don't miss. I want him representing me the next time I have to negotiate my car insurance rate. Now look, in other sports, nobody would flinch at a number like that. In fact, they might think that number was severely low. For a professional wrestler, that is an astronomical number. And not necessarily one that I believed. Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful Select said that according to sources they spoke to in AEW and in Japan, the Tokyo Sports figures are accurate. Meanwhile, we got Dave Meltzer in this week's Observer saying the dollar amount is not accurate, that it's considerably lower than what's been reported, but it is still a lot of money. Maybe they're both, maybe we need to cut the baby in half. Maybe they're both right, and it's actually $4.5 million total over 3 years, as opposed to $4.5 million per year, which would work out to about $1.5 million per year. But I think he was making a little over $2 million a year working for New Japan. So would he take less money to come over here? I don't know. But regardless, I don't care how much Tony Khan is paying the man. I'm just glad to see him on my TV because he is one of the greatest of all time. And I think that Tony Khan's primary objective was to do whatever it took to keep him away from Paul Levesque and to keep him away from WWE, and he was able to make it happen. There's no evidence that he ever even spoke to WWE. He considered them, but I don't know that there's any evidence or solid reports that he actually conversed with them or that there was a formal offer presented to him by WWE. It's kind of like Will Ospreay. Tony got to him before he ever had a chance to even consider an offer from WWE. Plus, Okada and the Bucks, they have a friendship that goes back over 15 years. He has other friends there and people that he's worked with before. I would have liked to have seen what he could do under a Triple H-led WWE, completely free of Vince McMahon. But AEW feels like the right place for him to be. Plus, with their relationship with New Japan, it keeps the door open for him to still wrestle there if he wants to. Maybe do a Wrestle Kingdom match again at some point. According to Fightful, he is believed to be moving to the United States and is going to be a full-time member of the roster. Not even Will Ospreay is moving to the United States because he didn't want to force his girlfriend, who's also a wrestler, and her son to have to relocate for him. So every time Will Ospreay appears on AEW television, he's going to be flying back and forth from the US to the UK. To go from the US to Japan back and forth every week would be a living hell. So it's not surprising that he would relocate, especially if they're paying him $4.5 million a year. If I'm Tony Khan, I'm not giving somebody $4.5 million a year to live overseas and only work a part-time schedule. If I'm paying you that much money, you're moving your ass to the United States. Now look, I don't feel passionately one way or the other about the dollar amount if it is true. Let's assume it's true. Let's say he's getting $4.5 million a year for 3 years. It's Tony Khan's money. Tony Khan is a billionaire. Okay? His father is a billionaire. He comes from money. I'm not going to cry about a billionaire spending a few million on a wrestler. He knows what budget he has. He knows whether or not or when his company is going to be profitable. It could be that he is looking at Okada and Will Ospreay, for that matter, being key to a wider international expansion for AEW. And so he's willing to spend big now to make more later on those investments, right? They've got their annual Wembley Stadium show in London. Maybe he wants to break into other markets. Maybe he wants to run his own Tokyo Dome show or go into Australia like WWE just did. I don't know what his plans may be, and neither do you. Did he overspend for Okada? If he's paying $13 million for Okada and doesn't make that money back with him, then yes, he overspent. That's just simple economics. And if he does make that much money back, then he didn't. That doesn't concern me. I said the same thing when those reports came out about what Charlotte Flair was making, becoming the highest paid woman in WWE. And that Mercedes was looking to make even more money than Charlotte, right? Those were the rumors at the time. I don't know if she is or she isn't. I haven't asked her. But if she is, good for her. Get that bag. She knows what she's worth, and if there's a promoter out there willing to give her what she wants, then I don't have a problem with it. My philosophy is make your money now while you can. When WWE was offering ridiculous money to teams like FTR to stay with the company, and to the Good Brothers to bring them back, are Anderson and Gallows worth the amount of money that is being reported that they paid for them? Not for the way they've been used, they're not. Now they're in NXT. Probably making more than half the roster down there combined. And for what? They've done nothing with them. But they were throwing money around like they had a fucking money tree with unlimited resources, because for a while there, they were doing everything to keep them away from AEW. They did not want these teams to be lost to the competition, so they were throwing money around to make sure they kept them. FTR ended up leaving anyway, because they weren't happy there. I don't begrudge them for it. They got a sweet deal, Anderson and Gallows. They got a sweet deal, and they took it just like most of you would. Especially if you're like Carl Anderson and you got 6 kids to feed. I still think a lot of these WWE stars, unless they are at the very top, are probably underpaid for all of the money that company generates these days. Okay, I'll bet that if there was a breakdown of how much of that money that WWE makes, that they generate, is allotted to the talent budget, it would be a small fraction of the money they make. It's probably even worse with the UFC. So you won't see me throwing a pity party if a bunch of millionaires or billionaires spend more than they should on a wrestler. Okay, this is another reason why competition is a great thing. Now, that being said, one thing that it does do, if those numbers are anywhere close to being true, now that they're public, one thing it does do is it opens Tony Khan up to having to spend more in the future to retain some of the names that he already has, who are going to go online and they're going to read about what Okada is allegedly making, and they may get hysterical about it. And they may say, wait a minute, if he's making that much money, I want that too, or I want something close to that too when my contract comes due. And then Tony has to decide whether Jericho is worth it or not. That's for Tony Khan to worry about. If he spends too much money signing all of this talent and he cannot generate enough money to cover those expenses, then AEW will have to start downsizing at some point and cutting costs. And then we'll know that he overspent. But until that time comes, I don't see why so many people are hot and bothered over this. Okada is a huge pickup. You hope that his star power can translate to the American audience. English is not his first language, but now he's got the Young Bucks to do the talking for him, which is one of the reasons I like him joining the Elite, although his English is actually not bad. I don't want to make it sound like he can't speak English. He can, but it's better for him to let the Bucks do most of the talking. He's not going to be out there cutting long promos on TV. When he first came up with the Rainmaker gimmick, he was a heel. It's not as if he hasn't played this role before. It's how it all started for him. And we saw some of that heelish attitude come out last year when he was bullying poor Kaito Kiyomiya. In one segment here, on Wednesday, they set up a Continental title match between Okada and Eddie Kingston, probably for their Dynasty pay-per-view next month. And they set up a future rematch between Omega and Okada. That should be the all-in match for Wembley Stadium. Omega Okada for the Continental Crown. Omega, on his new Twitch channel on Thursday, said that he recently underwent emergency treatment and that his recovery from diverticulitis has been 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back. And he would love to say that he'll be back soon, but he can't say that. He was 24 hours away when this all started, when he was first rushed to the hospital from a blood infection and possibly dying. He still doesn't even know if he's going to need surgery or not. It's March. He's been out since December, and he still doesn't know if they need to cut him open or not. He could be back in 2 months. He could be back in a year. We just don't know. I hope he gets well soon. That is a match I would love to see take place at Wembley Stadium. One criticism I saw, though, about turning Okada heel is that AEW desperately needs babyfaces on top. They have more heels than they do babyfaces. Why are they turning Okada? So I went through the list of names, and on the babyface side, I count Will Ospreay, even though he is still hanging out with Don Callis. I don't expect that to last much longer, and frankly, even if it does, the people are treating him like a babyface. So you've got Will Ospreay, you've got Swerve Strickland, who after Dynamite this week is a full-on babyface now, Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston, Adam Copeland, Orange Cassidy, and you throw Chris Jericho in there too. I'll put him at the bottom of the list. That doesn't count Kenny Omega and MJF, who are out hurt, but when they get them back, those are 2 more names they can add to the list. Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson, I have them on the tweener list because I don't know what you would consider them right now. If I had to put them, if you forced me to put Danielson in one column over the other, it would be the babyface one. Then you look at the heel side, you've got Samoa Joe, Okada, Christian Cage, Jay White, and Adam Cole, who is still months away from a comeback. And really, I mean, maybe you want to throw Wardlow in there, but I'm looking at like people that you would consider to be top heels in the company. So maybe throw Wardlow in there too. That's it. Like, they're not overly lopsided one way or the other.